Hello, everyone. Welcome to Just for the Love of Reading, where we read books to inspire, motivate, and empower. The next book in our book club series is titled Patience is a Subtle Thief by Ishola Ayodeji. First of all, I just want to start off by saying that this novel is phenomenal. It's filled with such a rich plot, dynamic characters, strong characters, each with their own story, and I really enjoyed this novel from beginning to end. The subplots, it was just an amazing novel overall, and so I would highly recommend anyone to read this book. It is a phenomenal and very powerful story. So, Patience is a Subtle Thief. What genre does this novel fall in, or which genres? It would be considered historical fiction, Bildungsroman, and political fiction. So, our protagonist is named Patience, and Patience is a young girl who decides to take matters and life into her own hands. From a neglectful father to a critical stepmother, Patience has never felt the love of parents, never felt the love from a family, from her family. The only love that she really eventually learns to realize is real is the love of her half sister Margaret, right? And so, Patience grew up in a household where she just never felt loved. And then there's Patience's birth mother. The last that she saw of her birth mother was when her father and her uncle were kicking her mother out of their compound one day when she was a little girl, right? And so she had never seen her mother since. She doesn't know much about her mother. Every time she would ask her father about her mom, he would tell her that she's crazy and she lives somewhere in America, right? So all Patience really has of her mother are that memory of her mother being kicked out. And she also has a box filled with like memorabilia and things from her mother that she kept as a way to keep closer to her mother. At a time when Patience should have been excited to leave her father's house and enter the world of university, Patience decides to go on another quest, and that quest is to find her mother in America. So, Patience decides to join forces with her cousin Cash, Emeka, and Chike, and they all engage in certain activities, illegal activities, in order to find the money that they need for their lives. And in Patience's case, she needs the money. She needs to find or get enough money so that she can travel to America and find her mother. Another subplot to this novel that really plays a big role in the overall story is the historical fiction part of it, as well as political fiction. This novel takes place in the early 90s in Nigeria when there's a possibility of a political revolution where there's a possibility that the government could change from one of military rule to a democracy. Okay, so this plays a very big role in the story, and it really seeps through the characters and their lives. And so this is also a very important part of the story. So the reader wants to know, will Patience be successful in completing these illegal activities, or will she get caught? Will she find it or get enough money to travel to America? And will she find her mother in America? And what would be the political state of Nigeria? Will there be a political revolution or not? So as I mentioned before, this novel is just so rich in its plot, in the characters. There are so many diverse characters who have a strong story as well, and it's just a dynamic novel in my opinion. So what I've decided to do is I've decided to list 10 things that I've learned from this novel. Patience is a Subtle Thief by Ishola Ayodeji. Number 1, if you can't rely on your family, create one. As I mentioned earlier, Patience never felt the love and support from her immediate family, from her mother and her stepmother. And so she never really knew what it felt like to be loved, right? And so she didn't have that comfort of having her family, right? Then we have Cash, her cousin. Cash's family was also affected, right? So Cash's father and Patient's father are brothers, right? So that's how they're related. And Cash's father passed away, and basically he enrolled in university, and Patient's father was the one who was taking care of him and paying for his school fees. But then when Cash's father died, it took a toll on him, and he ended up failing his courses. And as a result of that, Patient's father basically stopped funding his education and just sort of literally just cut him off, right? And labeled him a failure and just stopped supporting him. So we see that Cash doesn't even have a family as well. And so before he meets Patience, he's actually, really good friends with Emeka. And they are the ones who are basically petty thieves, and they, do what they have to do to survive. And so Cash had to create his own family by joining forces with his friend. Now, Emeka and Chike are brothers, okay? So they're brothers, and their family dynamic has also been affected because their father passed away as well. And their mother ended up getting sick, so she couldn't work anymore. So basically, Emeka and Chike basically are the providers for their mother and having to come up with money to pay for her medical bills. So you have all the Patience, Cash, Emeka, and Chike, all with unfortunate family dynamics. And so they have to figure out a way to fend for themselves. And so they join forces and sort of create a family of their own, right? Where they can receive the support to a certain extent, and they can help each other out and use their strengths and weaknesses to make, or use their strengths more so, in order to get what they need to survive. So we really see that they build a bit of a family for themselves due to their situation. Number 2, betrayal will remind you of the importance of self-reliance. So Patience, our protagonist Patience, is a young girl, right? So she's coming of age story. She's learning about herself. She's learning about the world around her. She's very young and naive at the beginning of the novel, thinking that she can trust anyone, right? And so she is eventually betrayed by people who she thought that she could trust. And she eventually realizes that, I have to rely on myself. So we have Aunt Lola. So Aunt Lola is Patient's mother's best friend that she meets at one of her father's parties. And Aunt Lola promises Patience that she's going to help her find her mother. And so Patience, having no one to really go to with this, is excited. She's like, oh my goodness, like I'm finally going to have someone to help me find my mom. And so she trusts in Aunt Lola and really believes that Aunt Lola is going to help her. But as we see as the novel progresses, Patience realizes that Aunt Lola really has no intentions of helping her. And in fact, she actually pitied Patience. And instead of wanting to help her, she just felt sorry for her. And so, led her on and told her what she needed to hear. But when Patience finally realizes that, okay, she's not getting the help that she needs, that she wants and needs from Aunt Lola, she realizes that she couldn't trust her. And so that was a very disappointing for Patience, and it made her even realize, okay, I really have to find my own way now to find my mother, because the only person who I thought could help me is no longer going to help me. I never was going to. Then we have Cash, her cousin. Now, Cash is the one that welcomes her into his home. He doesn't have a lot, but he lets her live with him and, tries to show her around, tries to let her see things from a different perspective, to open her eyes and see the real world, and for what it is. However, there is a time where, Patience trusts Cash to get her passport from her father. So another thing that Patience needs to get to America is her passport, right? And she is an American citizen. And so her and Cash go to her father's house, and she tells Cash where the safe is and gives him all the information that he needs to get the passport. And Cash tells her that he didn't find it. But the reality is that he actually did find the passport, and he eventually sells her passport in the black market. And so this really crushes Patience because she trusted her cousin and couldn't believe that he could betray her like that. And she's just like, how could you say you love me if you betray me like that? Like, you lied to me and said that you couldn't find my passport. And then you ended up selling it. And he didn't even tell her, of course. She ended up finding out in a way that he, she was doing his laundry, and I think she found her picture or something related to her passport in his pants pocket. And that's how she found out that he sold her a passport. When she confronts him about it, he's just like, well, I needed to put food on the table. Like, how do you expect us to eat? And so he didn't even really feel remorse for that. And so that really allowed Patience to question, like, did you even love me? And so that was another act of betrayal that really made her realize, wow, like, I can't even trust you, who's supposed to be my cousin. Another form of betrayal that Patience experienced, I feel, is with Bimpa. So Bimpa is Aunt Lola's daughter, right? And Bimpa is, basically a little older than Patience, and she is what would be considered a fine babe, right? She is that girl. She's stylish. She's a socialite. She is enjoying the fruits of her father's money. And so she has all these things going for herself. And, Patience confides in her with certain things about, just wanting to find her mother and, certain things that she's doing. And so what ends up happening is that Patience finds out that Bimpa's best friend and boyfriend are basically fooling around behind her back. And so when she confronts Bimpa about it or tells her what's going on, Bimpa just dismisses her and denies, her claims of what Patience is telling her. And so Patience is like, yo, I'm trying to, like, help you. Like, I'm trying to make you see what's going on. Like, don't trust these people. They're not really your friends. And Bimpa doesn't take that too well. And what Bimpa eventually does is she eventually ends up traveling to London to go to school without telling Patience. And then she goes and tells Aunt Lola, her mom, Bimpa's mom. Bimpa tells her mother, Aunt Lola, that Patience is involved in certain activities. And so, Patience just felt like that was just such a slap in the face. Like, it's one thing for you to, like, not believe me, but then you take off to London without telling me, and then you go up and tell your mom about certain things that I confided in you with. So it's just that aspect. So, and then in that case, Patience didn't even really have the opportunity to tell Bimpa how she felt because Bimpa took off and went to London. So that was another form of betrayal on her part. And I would also say that, with her father, her father's level of betrayal in the sense where he just never showed his love, ended up disowning her when she didn't want to come back home and go to the local school. When Patience's father found out she was failing her courses at uni, he told her, university, come back, you're going to school here. And when Patience didn't listen, he just basically disowned her. And so, just not having that father's love really, really made her realize that she's not going to get it from him and she has to really rely on herself. Number 3, our motives will always be what drives us. Now, although it appears as though Patience's motive is to find her mother, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to find her mother, the underlying motive with that is that Patience wants to feel loved. She's never felt loved before, and she's not getting it from her family in Nigeria, so she wants to find it in her mother. So Patience's ulterior motive is that she wants to feel loved, and so she's willing to do whatever she needs to do to get that. And at this point, it's her mother that's her only hope of possibly receiving that love, and so she's going to do what she needs to do to find her mother. And, she sees Bimpa and Aunt Lola, their mother-daughter dynamic, and the love that they have for each other, and she yearns for that. And so, because she realizes that she doesn't have that and she doesn't know what it feels like. So she's seeing examples of love being displayed, especially between a mother and a daughter, and she wants that for herself. And Chica and Chike, and Patience actually, Chike becomes Patience's love interest. And we see in the novel that Patience is really yearning to get that love from Chike. And, she doesn't get it. And she realizes that she's not going to get the love that she wants and yearns for from him. And so, she learns to accept him for who he is and where he is in his life. However, there's just that strong yearning for love. And so she's searching for it, through other people, specifically Chike. And this ties in to number 4. You have to love yourself before you can love anyone else. And this lesson that I learned specifically pertains to Patience and Chike. Okay? The reader sees that, Patience is drawn to Chike, physically and emotionally. And I believe that she's always had a crush on him. And now that she's older, she just feels that this is the time that she can really express herself completely towards him. And we see that he's hesitant at first, probably for a couple of reasons, because that's his brother's friend's younger cousin. And, he's really not sure how to go about it. But we eventually see that Chike lets his walls down and he eventually draws closer to her to a certain extent. And so we see that, we see this dynamic between them. We see them, flirting and, doing all this stuff. But there's still a part of him that Patience feels he's not letting her see. And so she does express this in the novel. And, she's also observant of Chike and his life, Chike is a young man who went to university for engineering and is unable to find a job in his field. And so he ends up becoming a Okada driver, which is sort of like a taxi driver. And that's how he's making his living, right? So he's not working in the field where he went to school for. And so he's not making as much money. Him and Emeka are responsible for their mother's medical bills. So, whatever money he's making, which is not enough, is being used for his mother's medical bills. And so Patience sees glimpse of him having trouble with his work and, wanting more from his boss and getting frustrated over the pay that he's receiving for the job that he does. And so she really sees this frustration in him. And eventually, he opens up to her and tells her, like, I don't think I can offer you. I don't have anything to offer you. I'm trying to make means for myself. I'm trying to be the person that I want to be for myself, find the job in my field, make enough money to support myself and my mom, and a potential woman. And I'm not there yet. And so he just didn't feel that he was worthy even to be with her, and because he just didn't feel like he had anything to offer. And so what Patience was wanting from him, he couldn't give it to her because he didn't even have it within himself. And then on a deeper level, eventually Patience begins to see the psychological effect that their lifestyle eventually begins to take on Chike, right? When they start engaging in those activities, it really affects Chike to the point where he starts to have nightmares and, he's not at ease, he's on edge, and he's just very, very unhappy. And Patience begins to realize that, oh, wow, this is deeper than I thought. And instead of like wanting and searching or asking him for that love to give me, I need to help him. I need to get him out of Nigeria in order for him to get well and feel like there's a better chance of life for him. And so we see that Patience goes from wanting that love from him to realizing that he won't be able to give her what she wants specifically, and that she has to accept him for who he is and work with who he is if she wants to be with him. All right, number 5. Hope is necessary in life. When hope is taken away, it can be fatal. So the hope in this story is the chance of a political revolution. Okay? And there is a hope that Nigeria will change from a military rule to a democratic government. And, one of the characters in the story, their friend, is the one who is the pillar of hope for them, right? More so for Patience and Chike, right? They feel like, okay, you know what, there's a bit of hope. If we, our government has changed, this could be better opportunities for the next generation of Nigerians, and this could really change and fix a lot of the problems that we have. And so this chance of a political revolution, there's hope in the city. There's a campaign for a new leader. People are getting their hopes up, attending rallies, making posters, joining alliances, and all that. And when hope is taken away, okay, it can be fatal, right? It's almost like something has crashed down, right? Like it literally causes a riot because something that was put up on a pedestal is just knocked down. Something that took so long to rise up is just knocked down with one kick. And that is what happens in the novel, and we see the effects of hope when it is being taken away. People are filled with so many different emotions, and that they need to release that somewhere. Someone has to pay for the hope that's being taken away from us. And when someone bases their whole existence, their whole life on hope, and that hope is taken away from them, it really affects them in so many ways, because it's like my whole identity was based on this one hope, this one promise, and now it's being taken away from me. Who am I, and what do I believe in? What am I living for? And so we really see this in the novel, the importance of having hope as a necessity, but then the unfortunate side that it can have when it's taken away. All right, so lesson number 6. Sticking to our morals and values will always be tested. So, as I mentioned, all of the characters engage in illegal activities in order to get the money that they need. With Patience, she really needs to get quick money so that she can travel to America and find her mother. And she really thought that she would be able to learn how to sew and sell clothes and eventually get the money to travel to America. And seeing that, she had a passion for fashion. She wanted to be a fashion designer. So she really thought that, okay, if I learn how to sew, I can get enough money and I can get my ticket and go to America. She quickly realizes that dream will take her forever, and there's a sense of urgency in her wanting to find her mother. So she had to make the decision, I'm going to do what I need to do to get the money to get to America by any means necessary. And, she really had to just change it and decide that she's going to do that. And so that we see that with Patience, right? Not believing in doing those things to realizing that that's the only way that I'm going to be able to get the money I need to travel to America. Same thing with Chike, trying to make money by honest means, by becoming an Okada driver, wanting to pay his mother's medical bills, applying for jobs in his field, trying to do things the right way. Things are not working out for him, so he decides to engage in the illegal activity. Cash and Emeka are a bit different in the sense where they were already petty thieves, but they, with Cash, he was in survival mode. And so, by any means necessary, I'm going to do what I have to do to get the money to survive, even selling my cousin's passport, right? And so that's just his mentality. He needs to do what he needs to do to put food on the table, and anyone that would involve going and betraying anyone, even his family. Okay? Emeka again was a petty thief, but he still had certain morals and things that he stood on, which as a reader I respected that in him, in the sense where when he finds out that his boss was cheating the workers, he didn't respect his boss for that. Like, he believed that people should be paid their work. Like, people who make an honest living should be paid their work. And so for a wealthy man such as his boss to be cheating his workers, it had him, sort of say, no, that's not right, and look at his boss differently. And he stood on that principle. And also, when he was plotting to get rid of his boss, Emeka didn't want any innocent people to get harmed in the process. And so, with his character, I just felt like, there were certain things that he was doing that was not right. However, there were certain morals and values that he did not fold on. He did not accept. And so, again, morals and values tested and deciding, what am I okay with and what are things that I will not tolerate or stand for. So that's something that the characters had to definitely deal with. Number 7, people will see how good you have it, when we ourselves sometimes are blindsided because we're so focused on what we don't have, right? So in this case, I'm going to refer to Patience. Patience has a lot of things to her advantage that the others see, right? Like, she's an American citizen. She has a passport. She can travel, leave and come and go as she pleases. She speaks like an American, right? Which means that she has that difference that from those around her. So she has all these things going for her, and you even hear Cash saying things like, you're an American, like, you can do this, you can do that, like, what is your problem, like, what are you really complaining about, right? But Patience can't see that because she doesn't have her passport because her dad has it, and she doesn't have the means to get to America, so she doesn't really see the advantage that she has. And in all fairness to her, she's really just focusing on what she doesn't have and her obstacles. But again, Cash sees the advantage, which is why he ends up selling her passport, right? Emeka sees that she's an American citizen, so she will be able to complete some of the jobs that they want to complete easier because she already has the passport. So it'll be easier for her to pass the border and get to America. So these people around her see the things that she has, and they use it to their advantage, right? And so Patience eventually begins to realize her advantages. However, it takes her a while, and those around her notice it right away and start plotting and using it to help their own case, right? So that is something that I noticed in the story. Number 8, understanding family dynamics is important in understanding your own self and your situation within your family. Patience decides to visit her father one last time before she goes to America, and the goal for her was to forgive her father and find closure within herself. But the visit doesn't go as planned, right? She gets there, she knocks on her father's door in his workroom, he ignores her, acts like she doesn't exist. doesn't really go well. But then, she stands firm and she's like, I'm here for a reason. And so when she tries to inquire about her mother, again, her father dismisses her thoughts, right? But then he says things to her that really give her the revelation and closure that she needs. Her father basically made reference to the fact that he resented her mother because he felt like being a mother and a wife was not enough for Patience's mom. And she always wanted to pursue her own dreams and pursue her own goals. And he resented her for that. And so Patience comes to the realization that that's just who her father is. She's experiencing her father in a almost similar way that her mother experienced her father, and perhaps even her stepmother. That the women in her father's life have to sacrifice parts of themselves in order to be with him, right? Patience's stepmother abandons parts of herself and sacrifices parts of herself so that she can be a wife to her husband, to Patience's father. Patience's mother did not want to give up her dreams, and so that led to, the father not wanting her around. And Patience has that same drive as her mother, and that relentlessness and not wanting to give up. And so we see that Patience's father resents that in her too, because she's so much like her mother. And so once Patience realizes that, this is who my father is, he's not going to change, and that the other women in the family had to deal with him in this way, it gives her a level of closure, because again, she understands that that's who her father is and he will not change. And so she's able to leave with that knowledge and just, continue with her quest. Number 9. A major transformation is needed in order for one to accomplish your goals. Patience, again, was a young, naive girl, navigating the world. And she really had to transform and really grow up quickly in order for her to accomplish her goals, right? She has no support from her family, so she was literally on her own without that family support from family. She doing things the legal way would take her years, so she had to make a decision that I'm going to do this by any means necessary to get to America. And so she had to put her fears aside. She had to put everything aside and really just focus on the goal and transform into someone who was relentless and fearless and was going to get the money by any means necessary, right? She had to do what she had to do, and so she really had to transform from this sheltered young girl who thought that the world worked in a certain way to one who was willing to do whatever it took to make her dreams come true. And again, I just want to add Cash in this, where Cash probably went through a transformation after his father died and, his uncle cut him off. He just felt abandoned by his family, like no familiar support. And so he had to really fend on his own and transform into this, I will have to do whatever I have to do to put food on the table. And so, I could say the same for Chike and Emeka. They all had to transform into a different person with a different mindset in order for them to really complete these tasks and do it successfully. And finally, number 10, Patience is a subtle thief. So that is the title of the novel, and that is also the name of our protagonist. And so Patience is a subtle thief has so many different meanings, different layers to it. First of all, Patience is a subtle thief. So our protagonist is a thief, right? And she is engaging in certain activities in order to get money to go to America. So she is doing those things. And she is not as patient as her name, because she is doing these activities because it's the quickest way for her to get money to travel, right? And so as much as she should be patient and do it a certain way in order to get the money, that is not the case. It's actually the opposite. And then Patience is a Subtle Thief is actually also a metaphor for the novel, especially the political element of the novel, where Emeka's boss mentions that, patience is a subtle thief, where having too much patience destroys hope. It takes away hope that people have, because people get tired of waiting and tired of being patient for a change, and it diminishes their hope, right? And he also mentions that, like, patience is a way, to keep people controlled. People are told to be patient and wait for a change. People are told to be patient and wait for a change in the government. And people are waiting and waiting. And when it doesn't happen, and when they do remain patient, it keeps them stuck. It keeps them stuck in this place where they're not moving and they're not progressing, right? So again, we see that patience, the word patience is used in the story and referred to as, something that kills hope in people and keeps people stuck. So in order to avoid getting stuck, you sort of have to have a level of urgency. And this is sort of shown with the way in which the characters are getting their money. So that was also a very, very powerful point in the novel. So, again, I highly recommend this novel, Patience is a Subtle Thief, by Abi Ishola Ayodeji. An amazing novel, very interesting read, great plots, strong characters, and there's just so much to learn from this story. And so I would highly recommend it. So, if you're looking for a novel that deals with, historical fiction, coming of age, one that has strong characters, a strong plot, this is the novel for you. So thank you for tuning in. And if you have read the novel, please leave your comments below. Tell me what you thought about the characters. Who was your favorite character? What did you learn from the characters? What parts of the story stood out to you? And what did you learn from them? Please feel free to comment and share down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time.